Are you good?
Yep.
Can you hear silence? The sound of silence? That's what you're going to hear if we don't stop killing the animals in our forests and jungles. The volume's already been lowered, and pretty soon it'll be muted entirely. I'm going to tell you about the biggest threat to biodiversity in our forests. I'm going to review an article by Rhett Harrison called Emptying the Forest, Hunting and Extirpating Wildlife from Our Tropical Forests. I'm going to explain why the problems of hunting have grown exponentially in the last decades. I'm going to inform you about the consequences of defaunation, losing our animals, and I will advise you of the conclusions that the author came to. Using existing data and researching that data along with a simple method of observation and counting the animals, he concluded that our forests are emptying and hunting is the main cause. Nowadays, you can ship game from the forest to the market in less than 24 hours. In his opening statement, Harrison says that advanced communications are enabling hunters to empty out the forest in one area and then quickly move to another area where the game is. In the book, Hunting for Sustainability, Robinson and Bennett found that the availability of firearms and cheap ammunition, together with better access into the forest, has resulted in widespread loss of biodiversity. Poaching is a very lucrative business worldwide, and Harrison does remind us that poachers often leave and enter protected areas with impunity. In Sierra Magazine, Greg Bleakney wrote an article called Pirates of the Rainforest, and in that article he was talking to enforcement people. What irks law enforcement people the most is it's damn hard to catch the bad guys. The indigenous people in these areas believe that hunting, even endangered species, is their heritage. They feel that's their right. These people have depended on bushmeat for ages to survive. And these hunters do not realize that they're not leaving enough animals in the wild to continue the population. We've identified some of the problems, but what about the consequences? We have to protect these populations of animals in order for them to survive. We need improved management resources in our secondary forests. In The Potential for Species Conservation in Secondary Forests, Robin Chasden wrote that we are only now starting to understand the complexities of biodiversity repopulation in our secondary forests. Our secondary forest, she goes on to say, is going to play a very important role in our biodiversity. We need to restore our forests. We need to sustain the biodiversity levels as they were, or we're going to lose the natural state of our forests. Intense hunting of mammals has also caused seed dispersal to fall off. The plants aren't growing because the mammals aren't transporting the seeds as they were. We have had some success in repopulating the animals, and restorative efforts are working a little bit. But let me tell you about the conclusions. Harrison concluded that we have changes that must be made. We have to do better with management and enforcement in the protected areas. That's a requirement. The authorities, however, are reluctant to admit that they have enforcement problems, and rarely do they admit that wildlife has been exterminated in the areas they protect. hunting is the biggest threat to biodiversity that we have. The government and private organizations aren't doing enough. The conservation efforts are failing, and rehabilitation depends on us. Everything we do, every choice we have makes a difference to the wildlife. In this research, he'd like to thank the National Geographic Society. They gave him a grant to do this study, and we will all be impacted by the loss of these animals. We have to implement constructive efforts. The data says that poaching is depleting our animals. We're losing protected areas, and we can't sustain our natural environment anymore. The extirpation of wildlife is a real danger, and it's up to all of us to fix that. If you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. Thank you.